Welcome to the Nonprofit Report, your update on nonprofit organizations, issues, and leaders. I'm your host, Mark Oppenheim, and today I am so delighted to be bringing you the work of Go2 for lung cancer with our special guest, Laurie Ambrose, President and CEO, Narjust Florez, medical doctor and thoracic oncologist at Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, and Karen Mostes-Withrow, board member, who is also a 17-year lung cancer survivor. So thank you so much for sharing. Your knowledge is a gift to us all on this very sensitive topic. So, Laurie, let's start off with just sort of a level set, and then we're going to go to Narjust, if you can jump in as from your background as a thoracic oncologist. Talk a little bit about what lung cancer is and what does that term encompass in terms of conditions and physical ailments and biological systems. Laurie, could you jump in here?
Mark, thank you. Pleased to be able to talk with you about a disease that sadly has been so hidden, has been stigmatized, has been underfunded, and shall we say, not respected in the way in which we see other diseases approached with research funding, with compassion and support. Our organization is dedicated to the community that finds themselves impacted by this disease, which most people don't appreciate or know is the leading cause of cancer death for both men and women.
The leading cause of cancer deaths for both men and women. And I really appreciate what you're talking about in terms of stigmatization, because as I was growing up, what had been implied to me, which is clearly untrue, and I'd love for you to jump in, is that because of the link between cancer and smoking and so on, it's almost as if there was a little bit of victim blaming. Is that accurate, Laurie, in terms of your interpretation? And Narjust, could you really come in and talk with us about what is causing these cancers? And then we can talk a little bit about treatment.
Sure. I'll just jump in quickly. Narjust, pick it up from there. But yes, it is a disease that is terribly stigmatized because of the association with tobacco smoking. And while it is a significant risk factor, it isn't the only reason why people get lung cancer. If you have lungs, you can get the disease regardless if you smoke or not.
So tobacco use is the number one cause of lung cancer. That is supported by the data. However, we need to understand tobacco in history. Until very recently, a lot of laws controlling tobacco didn't exist. So there were people that had secondhand exposure, occupational exposure related to their gender. Women are most likely to be servers, most likely to be secretaries, most likely to be flight attendants. I have all of them in my clinic that they never touch a cigarette directly, but they have secondhand smoke. Like I have 4 flight attendants, right? In addition to that, nicotine is an addicting substance. So it continues to be seen as a choice, but in fact is an addiction. Your body develops a physiologic addiction to the nicotine and the cigarettes. So what you can buy the cigarettes in a gas station doesn't mean your body doesn't develop addiction. So changing the language about tobacco use, and instead of being a lifestyle choice or a way in which the body gets used to a substance, is important to remove the stigma for lung cancer. A lot of people got exposed to tobacco very early in their life, and they develop that dependency to the substance, right? So instead of seeing it as a choice, we need to see it as what it is. It's extremely difficult to quit smoking, and the smoking cessation director at Dana-Farber, we have seen rates of quitting for other substances that are more dangerous is easier than tobacco. And it has to do with the easy access, that it is legal, and the other ways you can get the substance. So due to that, the stigma exists of you use tobacco, you get cancer. Nobody deserves to get lung cancer, regardless of their life choices. There are a lot of other lifestyles that are associated with cancer. Red meat, produced meats, they're associated with colon cancer, but we don't see the stigma, right? So when a patient with lung cancer discloses the diagnosis, the first thing they get asked, instead of being asked, are you okay? They get asked, "Did you smoke?" But when a person with colon cancer discloses a diagnosis, the first thing they get is empathy. "I'm sorry this happened." Nobody comes and says, "Did you eat steak? Did you eat processed meats?" So that is the problem we have. We see tobacco as a choice, not as an addiction. We see it as a blame, and that has led to many issues.
And you're basically saying it starts with the diagnosis. Karen, I saw you nodding. Did you have that experience where in some of your early experiences, did you have the experience where you felt that you were not being asked about yourself and your feelings and so on and so forth? How did you experience having your diagnosis and then the treatment afterwards? Does that track with some of what Narjust was describing?
First, the stigma is very, very true. Anytime someone finds out that I have lung cancer, I'm a survivor, first question is always, "Did you smoke?" Always. 17, almost 18 years ago, when I was diagnosed, it was an accidental finding, and there was not discussion about genetic testing or anything like that. And I was early stage, but after much discussion, we decided that, as I used the word in insurance policy, I should probably go through treatment. So I had chemotherapy, I had 4 cycles of platinum drug treatment, and I did well, handled it well, so I went on to be. I've been checked every year. I have CT scans every year, and what is new to all this information is in July of this year, I was diagnosed again with lung cancer, a whole new lung cancer. Had nothing to do with 17 years ago. And in fact, it was, the first one was very early. This was even earlier because I had been watched for so long. And I had surgery and it was removed. And there was a lot of discussion again about treatment, not treatment. This tumor had completely different genetic factor, which kind of surprised all my doctors because they were anticipating, even from looking at my scan, that I would have the same genetic factors I did. I didn't. So I'm going through a special blood testing program for 3 years, but they felt good. They wanted to just about say, "You're cured." But when I was going through the initial part of the process, all I could think of is, I'm so fortunate to have Go2 because I can call anybody there and ask questions. And I'm also very fortunate to be living in the area where I am because I'm so close to Stanford, and there's a lot of the teams there that are familiar, well connected with Go2. So I had, we had quite a bit of discussion about whether should I have treatment, shouldn't I have treatment. And after talking to 2 different doctors, talking to some of the staff at Go2, I was comfortable with the idea that I now don't have to have treatment, but I will be watched closely for the next 3 years.
Karen, just sort of staying with you, I want to ask you 2 questions that came to mind as you were talking. One is that it seems that, as you refer to it, you're very fortunate in that you have access to all of these experts.
Absolutely.
With your second cancer diagnosis, you had already benefited from having gone through this process before. You were so equipped, right, in terms of your own, emotional fortitude, your ability to analyze the situation, the people surrounding you. And then I also want to ask about, the whole idea of having access to this treatment, right? And these experts, which cost money, which requires, and also your experience as a woman, right? Do you feel that in the 17-year arc, there's been What have you experienced? Let me ask it more as an open-ended question. What has your experience been in those two areas in terms of access on the one hand, and then your experience as a woman on the other?
Well, access, I'm so fortunate. My first cancer, for the most part, I was treated at UCSF at that time. And then this new cancer, I was treated at Stanford because the surgeon that my pulmonologist wanted me to have the first time, the one that he felt the best for me 17 years ago, was at UCSF. This one, and again, UCSF is only 50 miles from me. Stanford is 20 miles from me. And so this round, my pulmonologist said, the best surgeon for you, given the circumstances of the size of your tumor and the appearance of it, I'm almost sure it can be laparoscopic this time, which it was not last time. The best surgeon I feel right now for you is at Stanford.
Two fabulous, fabulous hospitals.
Absolutely.
But not everybody does, right?
They cannot. And I can't, I think of the many things I'm grateful for, and on the top of that list is my access to the best care in the country, if not the world, in either one of those institutions. It's just, and as a woman, you see so many women. It's not. I don't want to use the words. It's not a surprise. It's not surprising, but it really isn't surprising because I am a woman, and typically it is more women who are diagnosed with lung cancer. It didn't stop me. I kept on working. I had a 40-year career, and first time I actually worked through having chemo part-time and just kept on going. I had children and I had things to do. So I had a great support system in my husband and my family. So it made it a lot easier. I don't know. I can't imagine what it would be like if you were a single mom and you had children to care for and you had to go through the treatment that I went through, because it wasn't easy. And this time, when I was going in to see the oncologist for the opinion of treatment or no treatment, I kept thinking, okay, I'm mentally prepared if they tell me it's going to be chemo again. And I think I was lying to myself just a little bit, but.
So Laurie, jump in, please. And
Yeah.
then Narjust, if you could also comment on your experiences from the doctor's side.
Absolutely. And Narjust is such an expert, not just in this field, but as it relates to women. And Karen, if I can just pick up on your amazing story and the amazing person you are and how you've navigated this. These are some very interesting statistics that reflect women, and certainly the issue of access. When 80% of people get their care in community-based hospitals. I wish it could be the Dana-Farbers, the MD Andersons, the Memorial Sloan Ketterings. That's not the case. And that is why the work of Go2 is so significant, because we are focused specifically on those community-based providers and working with them to stand up high-quality screening and care close to home. But the issue of women is significant. And I'll share this quickly, and Narjust, you just, run the show from there. But lung cancer is a hidden disease when it comes to women. Most people think it's breast cancer that claims the most lives. It's not. It's lung cancer. But think of it this way. Women are over 50% of the population and workforce. They control 60% of personal wealth. They're responsible for 85% of consumer spending, and they make 80% of healthcare decisions for themselves, but most importantly for their families as caregivers. They are the ones who will put off their own needs to help others and to serve in these contexts. So when you think about this disease as the leading cause of cancer death for women, most
and
often
it's a quarter of all cancer deaths, right?
Correct.
It's a
Correct.
quarter of all cancer deaths.
Of all cancers, but certainly even of all women's cancers. When women put off their health, it affects their families, it affects society, it affects the economy. And that's why we have worked so hard in trying to bring this disease out of the shadows, because we need more women to understand it is unique to them and it is devastatingly impacting not just to them, to their families, to the workforce, and to our economy as a whole. And this has been an amazing and important focus of ours as we lift up women's boats, certainly in this space. It's going to affect our entire community. But it is a different disease. Narjust, you chime in on this, and certainly the younger, non-smoking women that are being diagnosed in greater numbers.
To link this back to Go2, the Go2 Foundation for Lung Cancer has been increasing awareness about lung cancer, not for the last year or two, but for longer than many other foundations. They have been around. They are the result of two amazing women leaders that combine forces to have a bigger impact and to support early investigators like myself. I started working with Go2 when I was in training at the Mayo Clinic quite some time ago. So let's talk about, I'm going to give you, Mark, one number, and it's about the number of women that die of lung cancer is larger than the number of deaths that we have for cervical, breast, ovarian, cervical, ovarian, uterine, breast, and colon cancer combined. More women die of lung cancer than those 5 cancers combined. And if it were a way to improve the screening of lung cancer by only 20%, by increasing the 20% uptake of lung cancer screening, and women, because they usually don't get screened. I have a lot of women that are up to date with the mammograms. They qualify for lung cancer screening. They've never been offered that. We will save the same amount of lives that curing ovarian cancer if we increase by 20%. Lung cancer screening, we save the same amount of lives that curing ovarian cancer, like finding a cure for it.
It's worse if you take a heat map of wealth and access in the United States and in the world. It is far worse for those women, for those people who have lung cancer, who are not within the heat map areas of wealth and access. So in a sense, we have a double issue, right? We not only have a condition that is responsible for so many deaths, cancer deaths, but we also have a situation where, depending on where you live and depending on your economic status, your statistics are far worse than others who might have the same condition.
Yeah, and that goes to the point of access to new therapies that are linked to genetic mutations. So 1 out of 4 patients with lung cancer have no previous tobacco history. 1 out of 4. And out of those, 66% are women. So lung cancer is a disease of women. When you remove the smoking curtain, it's a disease of women. And we have these new therapies, Mark. They're amazing. One of the number 1 mutations was developed at my institution, the drugs. However, they're only available to 20% of the world population. A pill that can improve your survival from 12 months to 10 years is only available to 20% of the population. So this amazing technology that I work in my lab and do in my lab is also a privilege for people to get. And so people may get the drug, but they get the first generation drug, which has more side effects and is not as effective. So a lot of the things that we do are only reaching a small group of people. And on top of that, imagine that you know there is a better therapy out there for you, but you don't have access to it. That's truly heartbreaking.
So, Laurie, talk a little bit about how Go2, and this is one of the things that's fascinating about your organization, because by helping to inform people, you're basically clearing the way for self-advocacy on the part of patients. You're clearing the way for hospitals in areas that are distant from a Dana-Farber or from a Stanford or whatever to start thinking about changing their modalities. And then you become an ally of such places. Talk a little bit about how you are shaping your programs to deal with these dual issues. One is an awareness of lung cancer, but also the whole issue of access and trying to shift treatment.
And Mark, it's such a great question. That's exactly what we are able to do across the care continuum because of the way our organizational programs and focus has always been. The patient, the people are at the center of everything we do. So we're a hub. We are their go-to. And it can be anyone from a caregiver to an industry partner, to a doctor, to a researcher, to a nurse navigator, to a caregiver. Anyone who finds themselves impacted by this disease or working to transform survivorship, we are there as a guide, as an advocate, and as their teacher, as their supporter, because no scientific breakthrough, back to Narjust's point, will be worth its weight unless people can actually access it affordably close to home. So that advocacy piece is as important as being there to support, elevating the awareness, but then our work to advocate on behalf of the community, to fight for the coverage, fight for the reimbursement, fight for the opportunity to make sure states can set up these programs, fight for the increased research funding that supports the work of Narjust and other multidisciplinary teams that are driving the cures. So it's almost this hub that is mutually aligned and supporting each other, patients at the very center, and the needs that ensure that through transformation of survivorship, we're funding the doctors, and then we're advocating for that access, and then working with those community-based providers to assist them in standing it up with the highest quality and opportunity available to people close to home.
Now, what I think is really sophisticated about what you've done is you have a board of directors and you have different people from different walks of life with different experiences, Karen, you being one. So you have governance people who are going to be focused on ensuring that you are retaining that balance. You have allies like Narjust. You have a global advisory council. You have a national ambassador council. Could you all talk a little bit about how not just the staff, but these various councils, the board of directors, and so on, functions to ensure as the organization evolves, as there have been past president CEOs and there will be president CEOs after you, Laurie, how you ensure that the organization retains its impact. Because at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're operating for impact. And the impact that you have talked about today, all three of you, is really your purpose. How do you ensure that everybody is challenging each other so that every dollar spent is having the most impact and you don't become pigeonholed in one place or another? Laurie, you want to give a first cut? And then Karen, if you could jump in from a board's perspective, that would just be fabulous. And then Narjust from your perspective as well.
Mark, again, a great question, and Karen will have loads to share on this. But at the end of the day, we're this living, breathing organism with each of us having unique skills, unique responsibilities, but it's how you function as a team that feels that sense of belonging and mission, with everyone understanding what their role and responsibilities are and how we work as that team moving the ball down the field. And I think what's so important is that there would not be a person, whether it's on the board or whether it's someone answering the phones, as it used to be in the old days in the offices, that isn't mission driven. Nonprofits are mission driven. And so that is our North Star. We are here to save lives and improve the quality of life for people that are impacted, no matter where they are in their journey. And again, the skill sets that are brought to bear, not just from program initiatives, but in governance responsibilities, all play such a significant part along with our councils like Narjust, who actually are our frontline heroes that have that real world experience that also funnel that information back to us so that we can figure out problem solving, gap filling, solution oriented that continues to move that North Star of saving lives and improving that quality of life.
Karen, I see you have fellow board members. You have all these different competencies. They're all geographically dispersed from London, Washington, San Francisco, New York, Alexandria. From all over the country. As you shape your board, are you looking at that balance so that laser focus on mission gets advanced by people of different competencies who are able to guide, sometimes challenge Laurie and her team? How is that done?
The one single thing that unites us all, recognizing that we all come from different backgrounds, demographic, professional experiences, which bring new ideas, fresh approaches, strategic thinking. We all don't want to be saying the same thing and thinking the same thing. Is that in one way or another, we have all been personally touched, whether we're survivors like Karen, whether we have friends like myself who called me 22 years ago to say we need to launch the movement for lung cancer. Whether it's a friend, whether it's a family member, whether it's a professional calling, whether it's your own diagnoses, that's what unites us. And then we harness the uniqueness of the experiences that we can all bring to bear to then drive this future that for our organization was actually started in 1995. And here we are, still going strong and still doing the work that is saving lives. But Karen, you have to get the hook sometimes, Mark, because I could go on.
I'm a fairly new board member, so I feel like I'm just kind of still in the learning phase, but I'm so impressed with the board, with the governance of the board. As Laurie said, each board member is a very individual, dynamic person, and they bring their special, unique background expertise to the board. But at the end of the day, there is empathy in every one of them, and that's a key. They see that the goals of the foundation are to, reach out to the patients, to provide the best patient services, and to work to advance the Centers for Excellence. All of the programs, I see that the staff work very hard. I've never seen such a dedicated staff, a staff that's very caring. They are there whenever someone needs something. That staff is there. If you have a new patient that comes in, if I refer a patient to the helpline, that staff is right there on top of it. And then you've got the tremendous people who do the marketing and get the, excuse me for saying this way, get the word out. That needs to happen also. And then you have Alchemy that's doing such phenomenal work in the scientific part of the world. The other thing I've been impressed with, and I'm still learning, but the connections that so many people in the foundation, the team, the other board members have with such tremendous experts in the medical field, the doctors, the researchers, the specialists, the conferences that they all attend, and the speaking engagements that they have. It's all kind of intertwined into getting the word out about Go2 being there for the patient, for the caregiver, for whoever needs the help and the support.
What you're saying, Karen, is that what you don't know can kill you.
Absolutely.
and with knowledge, you can at least be equipped to respond. Let's talk a little bit. Narjust, we're going to ask you for some medical advice.
Sure.
What should I do today? What should my family do? What should my wife do today to improve our the speed of diagnosis for lung cancer and to help others gain access to treatment?
I do believe in action, and action is important. So what can you, your neighbors, anybody does is to support nonprofit organizations like the Go2 Foundation. They have been around, as we talked about it, for decades. And that is action. Donations to maintain this work now that is more needed than ever before. As you say, they have a lot of these people are volunteers. They're volunteering their time. However, the lights need to be paid off. The water needs to be paid off. And to support investigators are finding the new treatments, they also do a lot of support. So I think donations to nonprofit organizations are more important than ever. Second, I think sharing about the foundation to other people. Not only about donation, but if you know somebody that has been diagnosed with lung cancer or is afraid to have lung cancer, or the Go2 Foundation has relevant and trusted information. And that is something that as an oncologist is more important than ever. With the search of social media, everybody is saying it's an expert, when in fact it may not be backed up by data. So the Go2 Foundation is there for trusted information, and I can tell you how many times my patients have used the helpline, because it is one of the few nonprofit organizations that has a patient-directed headline that has been around for a long time. I have patients that call sometimes just to check on the person that has been answering the headline for them. Many of them are caregivers, many of them are patients. So donations, spread the word, because Go2 has a place that is more important now than never before.
Laurie, talk about screening and the importance of screening for lung cancer. Screening has got a lot of different fear factors. Do I have to take substances? Will I have digestive problems? How complicated is it? Will I get a lot of radiation and so on? Could you just talk a little bit about how we should think about screening for lung cancer?
The opportunity for us to save lives right now is real. We have early detection. It's called low-dose CT screening. It can find, detect, help manage, and cure this disease. Too few people are taking advantage of the knowledge that it is there and whether or not they qualify for it. It's hard getting into a lot of the details, but if you could be at risk, you should be talking with your doctor about the opportunity to potentially be screened for this disease. Yes, that criteria rests on a smoking history and an age, but part of the work that we have underway is that we know there are many, many people who fall outside of those risk factors. They're too tightly drawn. And our advocacy work is working to expand those. But screening for lung cancer is real. It is here. It is available. It's life-saving. And we need to increase the current national rates of screening that are abysmal. Only 18% of the country is being screened, when we need to see multiples of that, just as we do for colon screening, for prostate screening, for breast cancer screening. It is there for lung cancer. That is the most important thing. Know that you could be screened if you're at high risk, and that you should be having biomarker testing to make sure that if there is an identified marker, your medicine is targeted to that for better outcomes.
100% on the biomarker. I was pounding on them to get me my biomarker results, and it took time, but I knew how important it was. And I've talked to different people along the way when they hear that they could have a low dose CT scan, they should do it but they're afraid. They're afraid of exposure. It's like, if you qualify to have this CT scan, this low dose CT scan, you should go and have it, because having that one CT scan is going to be much less harmful to you than having lung cancer.
And just to add to that, it's a low dose CT scan. So if you take a flight from New York to LA, you get more radiation than you're getting actually with the scan. The CT scan is not as painful as a mammogram. It's not painful at all.
Not at all.
It doesn't require you to take laxatives for hours and end. And it doesn't include any rectal exams. So when we talk about the form of screening that's actually less uncomfortable to patients, that is lung cancer screening. And if there is any reason so you qualify for it, it saves more lives than any other screening. And now we have bans. Now there more and more hospitals are having buses that can come to you. And if you have to pick one and you qualify, you have more chances of dying of lung cancer than any other cancer if you have a previous tobacco use history. So let's, pick the biggest fish and pick that to fry, which would be the CT scan.
Laurie Ambrose, President and CEO, Narjust Florez of the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, and Karen Mostes-Withrow, board member of Go2 for lung cancer. I want to thank you all for sharing so much valuable information with us, for sharing your experiences. And thank you for the treatment that you provide and the advocacy you provide. Please thank your staff. Please thank your fellow board members, Karen. Please thank your fellow doctors, Narjust. Please thank your donors. This is so very important. It's really critical, as you said, Narjust, at this time, that Laurie and Karen's organization is taking the work and advancing the work that you do so well. So thank you all. Thank you for your insights.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you.